The solar eclipse of February 12, 1831, is one of the historical ones because it was instrumental in a slave revolt led by Nat Turner. He witnessed this eclipse and took it as a sign to begin an insurrection against slaveholders. Born on October 2nd, 1800 in Virginia, it is recorded that Nat Turner could read at an early age, was intelligent, and absorbed the Bible to such an extent that he believed he was called on to lead his people out of bondage. Some called him a preacher, and some nicknamed him the prophet.
Let the high praise of God be on the mouths of the saints and a two-edged sword in their hand to execute vengeance on the demonic nations and punishments on those peoples, to bind their kings with chains and their nobles with fetters of iron, to execute on them this written judgment.
Nat Turner believed a sign in the form of an eclipse of the sun was a sign that the hour was near to start his rebellion, and on August 21st, as they say, all hell broke loose. Quick side note, this date is significant because on August 20th, 1619, we were brought to Jamestown, Virginia to begin the transatlantic slave trade in the U.S. It is reported that, quote, 20 and odd Negroes, that's what it says, from the White Lion, an English ship, were sold in exchange for food. The remaining Africans were transported to Jamestown and sold into slavery. So I don't know if he purposely chose that date for this, but I got a feeling. There are also records that his original date was going to be July 4th. I don't think we need to explain why, but he ended up choosing August 21st, which is still quite significant. After the revolt, all slave states except for Maryland, Kentucky, and Tennessee passed laws against teaching black people to read and write. Now, they wasn't just teaching against black enslaved people to read and write, but they didn't want any black people to read and write. For example, in 1831 and 1832, laws were passed in Virginia restricting meetings to teach free blacks to read or write and instituting a fine of between $10 and $100 for teaching enslaved blacks. So it didn't matter if you was free or enslaved. They wanted you illiterate. The Alabama Slave Code, for instance, of 1833 stated, and I quote, "Any person who shall attempt to teach any free person of color or slave to spell, read, or write shall, upon conviction thereof by indictment, be fined in a sum of not less than $250, no more than $500. Harper's Weekly went on to publish an article that stated, quote, "The alphabet is an abolitionist. If you would keep a people enslaved, refuse to teach them to read."